other person, right? So this other person, they're in this affective state. They're frustrated with the situation. Of course they're frustrated, right? But a lot of what we've seen is how critical it is for an officer not to reciprocate, because it really does escalate. And you can see it, we publish on, you can see it in the data that when an officer starts kind of reflecting this, and they start getting, in these affective states, right? All of a sudden it just escalates and it just starts to increase. And most people go, well, of course, right? Like if you respond in kind, like you think about any interaction, you've ever had an argument with, what are the factors that impede an officer's ability to essentially regulate their emotional state, right? To not respond in kind, because it's very much in our human nature to do that. Someone raises their voice to you, you start to raise your voice to them, right? Like the way they start to speak to you, you might respond in that way. And then the more stressed you get, it really loosens your ability to regulate. Well, we want to now know, what are the factors that contribute? Is it certain interactions, certain people, potentially, right? What are those factors that really loosen that officer's ability? We know that when we become highly stressed, or we're under these stress states, we tend to fall back to pre-established scripts. And this is a matter of what works. It's not if it's right or wrong. It's like, I know that when I do this, it tends to work. It might not be, might be a poor practice, right? But inevitably, it's about what works. And so for us, that's something we like to share with students is, really, take note of that. And that students often notice patterns that we talk about that we're trying to explore now. And so I'll give you one of those is like when certain officers show up, right? There's, they watch enough of the data, they learn a lot about, how different officers interact in situations. And it's kind of like, we always hear this from officers. It's like when so-and-so shows up, you really got to be mindful, right? Because they kind of take this approach. It's like, oh, officer so-and-so. You do see that sometimes where certain officers will show up and it just throws the dynamic completely out of balance, right? Well, then it's a matter of why, right? So this is really just a series of whys, right? It's like you find these patterns and you go, why? And then you chase down those patterns and you ask the same question, why?